Welcome back, everybody. This is Pucks on the Pine Tree Pod. I am your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Happy Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope everybody had a great weekend out there. It's a nice one for me. Had a little downtime with my little boy. A little visit with the family, a little church on Sunday. Uh, just a great overall weekend. But happy to be back with you guys here as we await puck drop down in Sunrise, Florida tonight for Game Two, Edmonton and Florida. Uh, Today we're going to talk about what a lot of people call kind of the silly season, this trade rumor season. If you go on to any sort of social media today, there's so many different rumors out there, and it's just that time of year where everybody's lying to each other. Nobody really knows what's what. But we're going to break down some of the names that are out there, some of the names that caught my attention, and talk through some of that. But before we do, of course, we had Game One of the Stanley Cup Final Saturday night, a 3-0 victory for the Florida Panthers. Uh, Really interesting game for a lot of different reasons. If you're Edmonton and you're looking at how you played that game, you're looking at all the different things that you wanted to get done in Game One. Uh, you wanted to handle the Florida forecheck. Check, you did it. You wanted to limit Florida shots and their offensive opportunities. Check. You wanted to limit their power play opportunities. Check. And you wanted to create some offensive opportunities for yourself. And check. And you still lose 3-0. Uh, they got bombed. They got bombed big time. Playoff Bob came out in full form. That was Bobrovsky's, I think, best game of the playoffs so far, showing everybody that he's worth every cent of that $10 million contract he makes. There's a reason why he's a two-time Vensey winner. Absolutely his best game of the playoffs. I think for Florida, they win the game. They really get outplayed, especially those first two periods, and that's I think it has to be so frustrating for Edmonton. Uh, they know they played a really good game. They feel like they have another gear too, of course. Um, but typically Florida, as the series goes on, they play better. I really feel like this was an opportunity for Edmonton to kind of steal a game uh, in Florida, take that 1-0 lead. But Florida, opportunistic, didn't have their best, had their goalie stand on his head. And that's the kind of stuff you need at playoff time. When it's special, when you're a cup winner, those are the kind of performances you need. So I'd be really curious tonight to see how Bobrovsky plays, to see if Florida doesn't step it up a notch, which I kind of expect that they will. But also, I think with McDavid and Draisaitl, these guys typically don't get shut out 2 games in a row. So I think it should just be really, really interesting. I'm cheering for 1-1 tonight. Just that's when you go to Game Three and it's 1-1, it's just far more intriguing. But we'll see what happens. Should be a lot of fun. The NHL did announce that viewership was up for Game One this year versus prior year, up 43%. I think that is U.S. and Canada numbers. Clearly, it's great to have a Canadian team in the Cup final for that reason, but overall, just great to see the game growing. So uh, good on the NHL for that. So we're going to dive into this board. I apologize. I'm trying to squeeze myself into this little spot with this board. So hopefully everybody can see that. But we'll go through some of these names and kind of talk through uh, what's being talked about out there, and some of the likelihoods of where these guys may or may not end up. I'm going to start with Trevor Zegras, 23-year-old centerman for the Anaheim Ducks. Uh, Through 211 games, he's got 55 goals, 99 assists for 154 points. His contract situation, he's still got 2 years remaining at $5.75 million per year, and he will be an RFA, restricted free agent, in the year 26-27. So a little bit of term left on his contract. Segras is a little bit of a lightning rod player. Young, has tons of offensive talent. Some people question, he has a little bit of injury history, a little bit one dimensional. Again, been around for a while now. It's still only 23. Sometimes guys take a little while to develop, but with what Anaheim has going on, so many young players, so many more draft picks, it kind of makes sense that they would maybe be talking about moving on from him. This has been talked about I think for well over a year anyway, of where Zegras is going to end up. Um, Number of teams being mentioned with Trevor. You're hearing Philadelphia, you're hearing Ottawa, you're hearing Detroit, you're hearing Montreal, you're hearing Calgary. Here in this market, yeah, the questions with Florida, does Boston go after him? I personally don't think he'd be a great fit here in Boston. I think there's so many other needs the Bruins have, but a lot of different names being mentioned for Trevor Zegras. Second name on the list, another Anaheim Duck, and another name that's been talked about for a couple of years is goalie John Gibson. 30 years old. I think he'll be 31 in July. He's got some term though. He's got 3 years at $6.4 million per year, and will be a full UFA in 27-28. He does have a modified no trade clause. That's something to keep in mind. There's a few teams out there looking for goalies, and you'll see there's a few other goalies on this board tonight. Rumors about LA, which would be a great fit for him. Maybe he wouldn't even have to sell his house or move. He could just kind of go across town. Ottawa, New Jersey, both definitely in the market for a goalie. I know Carolina's in that market too. I haven't heard his name linked to Carolina, but that wouldn't be a shock either. Gibson's been there for a number of years, kind of taking on the chin, playing for some really bad teams, and I think has always played fairly well. I know some NHL analysts really don't like his game all that much, but it's a veteran guy. I think he's probably played better than his numbers would indicate. Through 477 games, he's a 193, 206, and 61 record with a 2.90 goals against average and a 910 save percentage. So really, when you look at those numbers, just on its face, not bad when you consider he's played for typically a last place team most years. So I do think he gets moved, but this goalie carousel is something we'll talk about as we go through this video. I'll be interested to see where all the dominoes kind of land and fit in. From there, this one, I almost didn't want to put this one on the board, but um, the name is being mentioned. Ottawa, Brady Kachuk, their captain, their left winger, 24-year-old. Um, has a lot of term, 4 years left on his contract at $8.205 million. He will be a UFA in 28-29. His no trade clause does kick in next season, 25-26. A lot of speculation just with Ottawa, right? New ownership, new GM, they got a new head coach. I think they're looking to build a new building, so a lot of new going on there. And they very disappointing year this year. I think they thought they were going to be more in the hunt than they really were. Uh, Brady's a big part of that team. Like I said, he's a captain. He's still only 24 years old. I don't think he gets moved. They only have, when I talk about Ottawa, about $12.4 million in cap space. So that could be a motivating factor if they just don't think they're going to be winning in the next couple of years. Maybe trying to move that 8 million off the books and get something big for him. They would be tons of interest if he truly becomes available. Again, you hear all the crazy Boston rumors. Oh, send him to Boston, send him to Boston. But I play for my team any day of the week. I don't think it happens. I think he stays right there in Ottawa. And if I'm Ottawa, I'm probably taking him and a couple of the other young players and trying to build something around him. But we will see. Uh, Another big name, and this is going to be really curious. Toronto's Mitch Marner, right winger, 27 years old, through 576 games. He has 194 goals, 445 assists for 639 points. Great goal scorer, been a big part of that Toronto kind of offensive machine for a number of years. He is on an expiring contract this year. Last year, his deal paying him $10.9 million, and he will be a UFA going into next season and does have a full no trade clause. So if Mitch doesn't want to go anyplace, guess what? He's not going anyplace. If he doesn't want to move, he can stay right there. A lot of different reports out of Toronto. They got Craig Berube now. They know they've got to make some changes to that team. They're such a good regular season team, such a good offense. And yeah, this year I think they did try to get a little grittier. You saw that in that Boston series. You saw that with signing Bertuzzi and guys like Max Domi, but it just still isn't enough. Defensively, they really need some more help. And, Mitch, whether it's fair or not, kind of does disappear in the playoffs a little bit. He's a darn good player. Um, the reports lately have been that Toronto is listening to offers. They're taking the phone calls. They're letting kind of teams make their best offers, and they're going to wait and kind of something pops up that they really like, and then maybe they go to Mitch Marner and his agent and talk through and see if it's a place where he'd want to go. See if they can't talk him into, hey, maybe a reset for you wouldn't be a bad thing. I'm going to be really, really interesting to see what happens with Mitch. He's such a great player. Um, and again, I think there'd be just a ton of teams in on him if that happens. A name that should raise some interest here in Boston, Marty Necas from Carolina, right winger, 25 years old. 97 goals in 362 games, including 146 assists, total of 243 points. He is an RFA this year, restricted free agent this year, so he technically doesn't have a contract. But a few rumors about Natchez. Boston has definitely been mentioned with him, kind of linking him and Linus Allmark. We'll talk about Allmark here in a moment. But Carolina looking for a potential suitor for him, uh, and also trying to potentially upgrade their goaltending. Montreal's been mentioned as well. Like there's been some conversation between the two clubs about a trade. Some bad blood with Carolina and Montreal going back to some previous deals kind of gone awry over the years. So I don't necessarily see Natchez in Montreal, but Boston's the big name here being talked about. I think he'd be a great fit, would definitely fit in with what the Bruins would need. And if you do lose to Brusque, Natchez would be a great fit in that top six someplace. So be curious to see what happens there with Natchez. Goalie, Jacob Markstrom from Calgary. 34 years old. This guy's played in 485 games with a 215, 196, and 57 record. 2.72 goals against average with a 9.09 save percentage. So been a very good goaltender over the years. Like I said, 34 years old, so he's not not a spring chicken. But still has some good years left. 2 years remaining on his deal at $6 million per season. He will be a UFA in 26-27, and he does have a full no trade clause. If you go back to the trade deadline last year, there was a lot of rumors, a lot of smoke around New Jersey and Markstrom. And with Markstrom having that no trade clause, any place he goes, he would have to waive that part of the clause. And it looked like at one point it was going to happen last year. Before the Jake Allen trade happened for New Jersey, Markstrom was very much rumored to be going there. And those are really the rumors right now that New Jersey and Calgary have picked up those trade talks. And um, this will be really curious. I think that Ottawa and LA could also be fits for him. I'm sure they've checked in on him as well. But uh, of everything on the board, I would say that Markstrom to New Jersey would probably be the one I would bet on happening, but we'll see what happens there. Mentioned Linus Allmark just a moment ago, but of course, our goaltender here in Boston, 31 years old in July. Um, Vezina winner, been part of that just dynamic duo with Swayman over the last couple of seasons. Um, 247 games played in his career, 138 wins, 73 losses, 23 overtime losses with a 2.51 goals against and a 918 save percentage. One more year left on his contract at $5 million per season, and he will be a UFA in 25-26. He does have a modified no trade clause. I think it's around 15 or 16 teams. So he does have a voice here. And this is going to be curious as well, right? I mean, with other goaltenders on the market, and we talked about earlier on, how depending on how these dominoes fall, once those two or three teams that are really in on goaltenders get set, if you're Boston, you may lose some negotiation, power in there. Um, a lot of teams interested, though. A lot of rumors. New Jersey again. If the Markstrom thing doesn't happen, I think New Jersey could be a fit. Of course, Carolina has been talked about potentially that Natchez for Allmark type of trade. There has been some talk about Ottawa, and then of course last year there was a lot of smoke around LA, the LA Kings, and rumors had it that Allmark actually nixed a trade to LA. Um, Curious if those conversations come up again. LA has a number of different players that I would be very happy to see back if it's a player for player type of deal. Matt Roy, defenseman, is one that I would love to see here in Boston, amongst a few other players out there. Um, Colorado's really not being talked about, but I do think he'd be a great fit in Colorado. I think they could definitely upgrade their goaltending as well. Um, but looking at Gibson, and you look at Allmark, you look at Markstrom. Those are all really good names, and just how this carousel kind of falls is going to be really curious. And um, if you're Boston, I think you don't want to be left without a chair. you know, in this, if you really want to move Linus, I would say, you know, uh, beat those other teams to the punch because Markstrom probably going to go, Gibson most likely is going to go, and that's even before you get into free agency. Another name here from Ottawa, Jacob Chikrin, defenseman, 26 years old. Obviously, made the trade with Arizona a year or two ago. Uh, so been there in Ottawa now for the last 2 years, or maybe 1 year. I might be mistaken on that one. But 467 games played, 76 goals, 140 assists for 216 points. Uh, he's under contract this year, under at $4.6 million, and is a UFA going into 25 and 26. Modified no trade clause. Don Sweeney has been in love with this guy. It seems like for the last number of years. Always been a lot of chatter with Arizona about, hey, maybe a chicken trade, maybe a chicken trade. Uh, I'm not hearing a ton of names right now myself. I'm sure the insiders probably are hearing, uh, the rumors there. Again, when you think about Ottawa only having around 12 million in cap space, it makes a lot of sense that they might want to move on from Chychrun. He is only 26. He does have some offensive game, which you like. I don't really care for the fit in Boston. I think he has so many other things going on defensively. I worry if you bring him in an offensive type of defenseman, does that kind of stunt the growth, um, of someone like a Mason Lohrei? I don't want to see that happen. And probably not fair, but for Chickman, he's never played on a winning team or around a winning culture. I know that's really not his fault, but you always kind of question that a little bit. Um, I'm personally hoping that they don't pull the trigger on that if you're Boston. I mean, if you do trade Allmark to Ottawa, I'd much prefer Brady Tkachuk, but that's just me. Number 9 on our list, New Jersey's number 10 overall draft pick. This was news that came out last week that, again, we know how desperate the Devils are for a goaltender. So they are dangling that number 10 pick out there um, as an opportunity to get what they need and to give a team, again, maybe like a Boston, a spot in the first round. Jersey does have 19 million in cap space, so they would be able to, theoretically take on one of those contracts. Allmark at 5 million, Markstrom at 6. What was Gibson at 6.4? So they would be in a position to do that. Um, a lot of different fits, of course. Again, already talked about Calgary, that connection with Markstrom, and Boston with Allmark and stuff have been talked about there too. And number 10 on our list today is the signing rights to Jake Gensel, left winger there in Carolina. We all remember the trade, Pittsburgh with Carolina there at the trade deadline. 29-year-old winger has played in 520 games, 227 goals, 264 assists, 491 points. Um, so he is a UFA. This is the interesting thing. He's a UFA, but until July 1st, Carolina has exclusive rights to work with him on a contract. Once July 1st hits, he's a UFA, can sign, can talk to anybody, can sign with anybody. But up until then, Carolina is the only team he can really talk to. So when Carolina talks about trading his rights, that's exactly what they mean. Is you make a trade with us, you're going to have that exclusivity for the next 3 weeks or so. But this is really, I think, a clear indication that Gensel has most likely talked to the brass there in Carolina and said, I'm not going to sign here. So I think that's the only reason Carolina would be looking to make a deal like this. Uh, I think there was a lot of hopes that Carolina would be able to lock him back up. Um, in terms of who is interested, I think just about any team in the league should be interested in this guy. He is a fantastic winger. He's in the prime of his career. Uh, I just, if all you have to do is give up, a couple of draft picks to get this guy, to get those rights and to have something hopefully worked out before you make the trade, that I just think it makes a ton of sense. I know that I think Jeff Merrick, one of the insiders there, I mentioned San Jose as a fit. San Jose has tons and tons of money. If I'm Gensel, I'm probably not going to San Jose. I mean, great place to live. But I don't know if I want to go and spend my prime years on a losing team and a building team when you could go to so many other teams and be in that cup contention. So uh, if I'm like, right on one of these, I'll be happy because there's just the rumors are crazy. GMs are floating news, agents are floating little tidbits here and there, and the reporters are all doing a great job. The insiders are doing a great job. They're reporting on what they hear, but there's so much manipulation that happens this time of season. That's really hard to kind of know what's what, but it's going to be a lot of fun. You will start to see some trade activity, I would imagine, really soon. Um, I can't wait to see what Boston does. I think again, as much as I love Linus Hallmark, I'd love to have that duo stay together. I think there's so many other needs that the Bruins have that they need to address. If they can somehow get an H's, if they can somehow get a Jake Gensel, and then sign a Lindholm from Vancouver in the July 1, that'd be fantastic for me. But lot of fun. Tonight's going to be a lot of fun. I hope everybody enjoys Game 2 tonight. And just on a personal note, I just want to say thank you, everybody. I've had this podcast just a little over 2 weeks, and the amount of support and positive vibes I've gotten so far has just been really amazing. Really thankful to all of you who are listening, who are following me. I have set one new benchmark for myself. I am hoping to hit 100 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Once I hit 100 subscribers, that's going to kind of give myself the green light to start inviting guests onto the podcast. I've got a few names lined up, a few other names kind of in the mill that I'm not going to mention right now, but some exciting stuff hopefully to come. But I really want to hit that 100 subscribers before I do that. So, if you feel compelled to support me, that's the best and easiest way to support me there. And if you have already done so, thank you guys so much. It means a lot to me, and can't wait to come back with another video soon. But I hope everybody has a wonderful evening and enjoy the game.